will you be able to get it from the PlayStation 5? Okay, tell us about this PlayStation 5 that was just announced.
Yeah, and it wasn't an official announcing. So this was an interview by Mark Cerny, and he was interviewed by Wired. And this just landed today. So Mark Cerny is the lead architect for the PlayStation 4, and I'm assuming he's also the lead architect for the PS5. And what happened was is they were just sort of asking him questions. So one of the first questions that I read on multiple sites, which kind of surprised me why they were so interested in it, will it be called the PlayStation 5? He said, I can neither confirm nor deny. I don't know why that's crazy, but maybe they're going to rebrand the PlayStation. And then they said, will it be released in 2019? Now, Sony usually does a PlayStation event sometime in June. And it sounds like he said, we're not doing that. And it's most likely because they won't be able to do a 2019 release. In the past, they've usually aimed for, say, like a Christmas season to release a new console. So it's like the new thing that everybody has to get. And my guess is they're not ready for 2019. So we're assuming, but he didn't confirm anything, probably a 2020 reveal and then a late 2020 release
That
is.
makes sense to me because some of these DATs you have here are insane.
Yeah, I mean, so here's what's neat. Whenever a new console comes out, whether it's a PlayStation or an Xbox, those are the two that usually have bleeding edge technology. And so their actual cost to build them, they lose money. So Sony will lose money on every PlayStation 5 that it releases in the beginning part of the product cycle. And it's always been that way. And it's because they'll have bleeding edge technology. But then as time goes on, they'll continue to create more PlayStation 5s, and those chips and components will become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to the point where they're actually making margins. And then near the end of the product cycle, really good margins. So, I mean, they know how they're going to swing this, but let's get into some of the stats because this
Yeah,
is pretty cool.
so I was gonna say the first thing that really surprised me was ray tracing.
Yeah.
That's crazy because the cheapest video card you can buy right now that does ray tracing is like $600 just for the video card.
Yeah. So here's the video card. They're saying the GPU will be based on. So it doesn't mean it's necessarily the same. It's based on, probably specifically made for the PlayStation 5, on AMD's Radeon Navi. So it will perform ray tracing. They are actually doing it right now. And ray tracing, according to the articles I've read, you probably know this way better than I do, but it's used for high quality graphics. And according to this article, is the PlayStation 5 will be capable of 8K rendering. So using the ray tracing and 8K, Dan, 8K, like there's barely 8K televisions out here. I don't even own a 4K one. Do you own a 4K TV?
I don't even have one gun, let alone many guns to necessitate a rack.
I don't
Um,
know.
no, I'm still 1080p. Here's the thing about 8K though. If you think about the product cycle of the PlayStation 4, it's been out for a long time. And when it first came out, people's TVs were not as good as they are today. And so even though a lot of us don't have 8K right now, next time we buy a TV, we'll probably get an 8K TV at Thanksgiving for Black Friday, right?
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good point.
just because it's kind of the newer thing. Also, I know that I'm kind of in the market for a TV that's bigger than 70 inches because they're so thin now. I
Yeah.
mean, 8K really, you're not going to notice a big difference unless it's 70, 75 inches. And that's what I want to get next because they're under $1,000 now. So for sure, I think that's a great thing.
Well, let's run down this rabbit hole just for a little bit because I've been looking at TVs. I'm not really in the market. I got a 58-inch plasma that's over 10 years old and it weighs as much as a baby elephant. I don't really, I'm not interested in taking it off my wall. But if I were, I've been looking at some of these TVs, walking around Costco and Best Buy, and you're right, those OLED TVs are almost paper thin, but they have these big, huge, chunky bases that I'm sure is where all the components are, right? Like the actual screen is quite small, thin, and doesn't produce a lot of heat. But then down where the components are, is quite chunky. So you put it up on your wall. It's not like you're taking a picture and putting it up on your wall and it's the thickness of a frame, a picture frame. It's actually because of the chunky components on the bottom. Most of these designs will come out like an inch or two from the wall because of that chunky part when you mount it. And you're mounting the chunky part because that's where the weight is.
But
So
compared to your OLED, or compared to your plasma TV that you have right now, it's going to be like half the size.
easy.
Honestly, it's going to make your room feel so much
Yeah.
bigger, and you'll have so many cool options with it. I mean, all the TVs you get right now are going to have Roku built in, or they're going to have their own
Or
Samsung,
Android. A
yeah,
lot of
Android
them have
stuff on
Android
it.
TV, or Chromecast.
And
So
yeah, and as we talked about in our previous episodes, now you can even do iTunes stuff on it. So that's awesome.
yeah, I think most of these TVs are going to come with multiple options. They'll probably have Amazon Fire. If you buy them from Amazon, guaranteed they'll have Amazon Fire built in. And just about everything I saw at Costco the other day had Android TV built in. So I don't know if they have a contract with Google, because I've been surprised at the amount of Google devices. So like the home minis, and tablets, Chromebooks. I mean, it seems like they have some kind of contract with Costco. So, yeah, I think you're going to have lots of different options. All the announcements came out where Apple TV, or at least apps for iTunes, are going to be on these TVs. It's cool. I'm actually looking forward to buying a TV again. Once I had my plasma, and I'm like, it's 1080p, and it's been pretty good. Maybe I sound like an old man when I say that, but I'm like, I
Generation X.
I don't need a new TV. Whereas remember back in the day, it's like, oh man, did you see it before we had flat panel TVs? It was just TVs that didn't have curved
Yes.
cathode array screens. So it
Yes.
was like, wow, your screen is flat? Like
Yes.
that was the flat TV. And then they had the widescreen TVs that were still heavy and the size of a baby elephant. And then they had the rear projection TVs, and you're like, that's amazing. And it was like terrible graphics. And so it was always like, I need the latest and greatest TV specs. But I haven't had a desire to go to 4K because I really haven't had many options to stream 4K. Um,
But if you had a 75-inch TV that was nice and thin up on your wall, that would be very enticing to get a PlayStation 5 and do all the streaming.
I have a PS4 Pro, and that's actually capable of 4K. And as you mentioned, the PlayStation 4 has been out for a while, and it wasn't capable of 4K till the PS4 Pro. So interesting. That's where they're going. So let's jump back into this PlayStation 5. I'll just go through a few more of these bullet points,
Yeah.
and we can move on. So it's going to come with a solid state drive. And I think that's kind of a no-brainer. Like, why are we still using magnetic drives anyways? Like, really, these solid state drives are way faster to boot up, and they're saying that it's going to shrink lengthy load times, have much faster online playing. And interestingly, the prototype, the working prototype, they were showing Marvel Spider-Man.
Cool.
And apparently there's this part of Marvel Spider-Man, I haven't played it, where you do this fast travel through New York City on a subway. And I'm assuming it's still rendering the entire city while you're sitting on this subway. And I guess the PS4 Pro does that rendering in 15 seconds. Well, this one in the PS5 working prototype can do it in zero point 0.8 seconds.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, huge capability improvements. And the CPU is going to be based on the third generation AMD Ryzen processor. So lots of really neat things coming out here. I'm looking forward to it. I am telling you though, like I'm not a heavy gamer, but I'm leaning more towards PC gaming.
Yeah,
Just
no, for
just
sure.
because like these product cycles, your current console starts feeling old. Whereas with a tower, you can replace CPUs, GPUs, throw in more RAM, get a better hard drive, and you can keep up with technology a lot faster. So that's kind of where I'm leaning towards, but we'll see.